This is my original Tyco Super 630, which I featured in another video a couple months back. And if you saw that video, you would have seen that this is an overall strong runner with a pretty good mechanism in it. And the biggest real problem to performance was the quality of the wheels, which causes it to wobble quite a bit as it runs along. Also, the brass on here has a tendency to tarnish pretty quickly, so it loses some of its ability to run reliably, although it still doesn't do too bad. But I wanted to see what I could do to get this running smoother, so I ordered some new wheels from Northwest Shortline, so let's see what we can do to get those installed. So the new wheels from Northwest Shortline are nickel silver with RP25 flanges and come with new axles and everything, so that should be all I need there. So I just need to get these trucks opened up, and that coupler broke off again. I'll figure something out to do with it. Yeah, get these covers off of here. So this was just, let's see, pulling back that way. A few latches inside. Okay. And the 3 axles are just dropped into there. So I'll just get these new axles out. I went for the ones that are not assembled, partly because they cost a tiny bit less, and partly because I would have had to pull one of those wheels off to get the gear onto there anyway. So yeah, they give you these new brass axles, and the wheels are really nice quality. And then the half of them are insulated, half of them are grounded. So just have to make sure to keep all those on the correct side. And then those there are the insulators. They give you plenty of extras. So you just clip these off. Let's see if I can tap that in with a hammer real quick. Yeah, that did it. So by having these wheels on there, I'll no longer have the traction tires that are on these plastic wheels, but since this is all-wheel drive anyway, and the model has a decent weight to it, that really shouldn't be a problem at all. In fact, traction tires, I'd say, were detrimental to this chassis instead of adding anything of importance to it, because the motor really isn't strong enough to pull as much as these traction tires would be able to haul anyway. So you might as well just leave them off. It'll probably make a better runner. Let's see, I should put this in the vise to press it on. Just need to press that in real quick. And that's done. So this should turn nice and smooth. Now the other one just presses onto the other end. Just tap that down into there. The grounded wheels definitely need to be pressed in, but the ones on insulators, those will do just fine being tapped in, I think. All right, that is on there. Make sure I got the gauge right. Yeah, I got that a little too close. So I'll just adjust that with the pulling tool. There, that's better. Okay. Yep, so that fits right into there. So that's how you put these Northwest Shortline axles together. Now for getting the gear off of the original axle, I just have it mounted in my puller there. So this moves easy enough that whoa, got on the wheel. Okay, now I've got it on the axle. Kind of wants to slip off of there though. This has to be done pretty carefully to make sure there's no damage to the gear. Sometimes the axles just like to kind of drift off of the pin. There. But eventually, they pull off all the way. Just like that. Now that just needs to go onto the new axle. It feels really tight though. So I want to make sure that I'm not going to split anything here, because when I was measuring with the calipers, the original Tyco axles, it seemed like they were actually more like 2.35 millimeters instead of 2.4 like the Northwest Shortline axles. So if that is the case, I'll just have to drill the gear out slightly and then put it on. Let's see. Yeah, 2.41 or 2.4 for the Northwest Shortline on average. Yeah, 2.35 for the Tyco. So I'll want to drill that gear out just a little bit to help it fit, and that'll also prevent any possible splitting in the future. Now, 2.4 millimeters is actually 3/32 of an inch, so I have a 3/32 bit here. Yeah. So I'll just gently try to drill this gear out a little bit. Sometimes I like to do it by hand just so I can make sure I feel that everything is going where it needs to go. I don't want to damage the gear. Okay, looks like that did take off a little material, so let's see if that makes it fit the axle. Feels better, but it is still tight, so I'll take just a little more material out to make sure that I don't damage the gear. There is a fine line between taking out too much and too little material, so I try to get this so that it'll press on, but I can still twist it by hand to get it off if needed. Yeah, that seems to be just right now. Alright, so that is on there and ready to go. Alright, so there's the first truck done, and just the visual difference alone is really nice there. Instead of having brass one side and plastic on the other, now it's all nickel silver throughout. So let's just give that a quick test and see what kind of a difference there is. Hold it down in there a little. There's a little bit of wobble from the insulated wheels. I think I just need to straighten that out though. And of course, multiple insulators were provided, so if that one is just bad, I can change it out. But compared to the original wheels, yeah, I think these are going to be better. Alright, so that's both trucks done now. I can actually slip that on the track without those tires, but it feels like it'll still have more than enough traction to pull when it needs. Now let's see how this runs. Still just a little bit of wobble. I'll look at those wheels with the insulators to see if I can make any further improvement, but that's already a lot better than it was. I think some of that is also just the wobble of the chassis on top of the trucks. Found the same thing with my Rossi U25C. So I might be able to add some sort of stabilization in there, but for now, I think this is a pretty good improvement already. Yeah, it's definitely those insulators, so looks like while the rest of the wheels and axle parts are really good quality, these plastic pieces are pretty hit and miss, so I guess that's why they give you so many extras. I seem to be having trouble finding insulators that'll hold the wheels straight, so I put this little system together real quick to make sure that the wheels themselves are actually fine. It seems like they are, so it seems like the accuracy of those insulators just isn't very good overall. I might try printing my own, or maybe filling the holes and turning them down with a lathe or something. Alright, so I 3D printed a whole bunch of these wheel bushings in resin. So far I've only installed one, but the results seem to be pretty good so far, so I'll put this onto the rest of the insulated wheels and we'll see if that takes care of the wobbling. Alright, first run with printed bushings. Let's see what happens. It's still not a perfectly smooth runner just because of the drive line, I think, but that's looking a lot better. That looks way more stable than before. I think there's always going to be some wobble, but for the most part, I think that's coming from the driveline now. There's very little left coming from any of the wheels. I may be able to make some further corrections there, but that's looking pretty good. Yeah, I can say that I am definitely happier with the performance now. So not only does it look better, but it runs smoother, and the electrical pickup should be better too, since the nickel-silver wheels won't have quite the tarnish and oxidation problem that the brass wheels often do. So I think this project has turned out to be a success. So that'll be all for this video. Although I am disappointed in the quality of the bushings I received, which I'll let Northwest Shortline know about my experience there. The wheels themselves are near perfect in quality, and were a really nice upgrade for this old Tyco diesel. So similar upgrades can be done on Mantua and Tyco MU2 power trucks, which I've done that once before with excellent results. And it's really not too hard of a conversion to do, so it's a good upgrade for a lot of these older models.